All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session today. Before introductions, before we get started, I just want to, ask a question. And the question is, do you understand how profound is the impact of satisfied employees on your customer experience, on your customer retention, and on your customer loyalty? The world around us is changing at a very rapid pace. We used to say the world around us is changing. We meant only technology back then. But today, it's economical world, social world, political world. I can go on and on and on. It's moving at such a rapid pace, we can barely catch up with it. So the last few years, and especially the pandemic, has challenged us to look at support through a different lens, and to push ourselves to figure out how we can rise to the future needs of our customers. Many people, including myself, not long time ago, we put a lot of time, efforts, and focus exclusively on customer experience, and we missed the other side of the equation, which is the employee experience. So today, we will share with you some secrets as we discuss the power of satisfied employees. Well, hi again, everybody. My name is Mohammed Ajouz, and I'm the Global Head of Product Support at SAP. I joined SAP a little bit over 5 years ago, and I was specifically hired to come transform and modernize SAP support. And over the past few years, I've also witnessed firsthand the impact of employee empowerment on customer outcomes. And I'm very happy to share some of that with you today. And joining me as well is Petrovich from my leadership team. She's a change and transformation expert focused on people empowerment and employee engagement. And Alice runs our executive office in support, which is all the enabling functions such as change management, internal, external communication, learning and development, project management, etc. And together, we will challenge your perception of the employee-customer relationship. So Alice, over to you.
Thanks, Mohammed, and thanks for the warm introduction. Hi, everyone. Happy to be with you today. So as Mohammed mentioned, we are very focused on employee engagement. Mohammed and I have been working together for just about 5 years now. And when he came into the team and I started working for him, we were really challenged with how do we transform our organization? And we knew that we needed to make sustainable change. So we didn't just need to see a couple changes in processes, bringing in a few new roles. We really needed to figure out how do we build our organization for the future and make it future-proof. So we took a people-led approach and we really put people before processes. And I'm very excited to be able to share with you some of our lessons learned, some of our tips, some of the things that we've done that I think you can bring back to your organization to help you make sustainable, transformative change, and with, of course, the people focus. So we're going to give you a bit more background. Why is this important? How does it matter? And how is it maybe different from the way that you've thought about your employee engagement before? Then we've got 3 key areas that we're going to give you some insight. We'll do some storytelling and give you some tips around. The first is unlocking employee potential. The second is building a purpose-driven culture. The third, leveraging technology. That's a very exciting one to reduce employee effort. I'll also give you some information around what might get in your way when you try to make this change and how you can overcome it. And of course, we'll wrap it up and give you some key takeaways. So that's what you can expect to walk away with after today's session. So without further ado, Mohammed, you've got so much industry experience and you've seen a lot of support organizations change and transform. Can you give us a bit of perspective, a bit of industry information around, why is now such an important time to be focusing on these elements?
Oh, absolutely. So I can literally just say happy workforce, happy customer, and finish the presentation today, and you'll get the gist of what we're trying to achieve. But let me, before we dive into the details, let me take a moment to explain to you why this is important. As a support executive who started his career 30 plus years ago, where I'm sure many of you can relate to this. Support was like in the basement of many companies. Nobody thought of us. We were pretty much neglected. We were the guys that had to fix some problems, but that was it. But fast forward to just a few years ago, what we've seen is a pretty significant transformation in our industry. And that quote on top, I use it in pretty much every single talk I do. And I encourage you to do the same. This is a Deloitte white paper. There's a link here. Read it. But the quote is as such: 2/3 of customers switch brands because of poor service. And this is really the dream come true for a support executive. Customer experience, which includes support experience, is expected to overtake price and product as the key differentiator. We're going to come to a point in time where customers are going to look at the service quality and the support quality and pay more importance to that than the price or the product functionality. That sets the stage of what we're facing as an industry. As we move into the cloud, the barriers to switch vendors are so much lower. I mean, I work for Oracle now, I work for SAP. In the on-prem days, customers rarely switched vendors. They had millions of dollars invested in their implementation. In the cloud, they can switch vendors overnight. The second quote, which also helps set the stage for our talk today, from another reputable institution, Harvard, that looked at Glassdoor, where employees put comments about their companies, and they have seen a direct correlation between happy employees and happy customers. A happier workforce is associated with companies' ability to deliver better customer satisfaction. So when I joined SAP back in late 2017, our workforce was very disengaged and very change resistant. I mean, comes this guy from the outside who was hired to transform support at SAP. Of course, I wasn't exactly welcome with open arms. A lot of the questions I would ask, I would get like, well, that's how it's always been done. So people did not feel that the company had invested in them. People were not aligned to a bigger purpose. So we started this multi-year program to transform the team. And Alice and I are more than thrilled to share with you the experience and how much growth we've seen and how engaged and involved our people felt in the decisions that impacted their work. So this is not something that you're going to take and within a quarter you're going to have it done. It took us a few years to get here, but it's an interesting journey. So next slide, please. There's a lot of things that we've done over the past few years, but if we have to look at the three main themes, the first one is about tapping into and unleashing your employee potential. Support organizations see employees as you get a problem, you provide a solution, you create a content, and that's pretty much it. They are much more capable, and you have to unleash that potential to truly engage that organization. Build the right purpose-driven culture. Align their work to something bigger. Don't align it to SLAs and backlog and time to resolve. Align it to what is our company doing? What is our organization doing? And finally, this is not a talk about technology, but I'm going to show you a couple of examples on how technology has helped us to create this highly engaged workforce. Because as we embark on this transformation, I made it very clear from the beginning that nothing, and I've seen it many times in my career, nothing kills a transformation faster than a disengaged workforce. So back to you, Alice.
Great. Thanks, Mohammed. It's really helpful to have that background, and I think it's really encouraging to hear we've got a great shot at this. There's a lot of potential right now for support within the industry. And so again, how do we tap into that within our team? So unlocking employee potential, this is the first step. I'm going to imagine that most of you have heard of employee engagement before, employee empowerment. Hopefully you have some employee programs within your company. And that's foundational. You need that. But there's so much more that you can do on top of that, on top of your standard learning and development programs, on top of your standard onboarding and processes to really help encourage your people to run at their best. So within everyone, there's untapped potential, skills, talents, abilities that we all have. And whether or not we choose to show up with those to our job is really based on the environment that we're walking into and how comfortable we feel and how encouraged we feel to explore, new talents and skills and opportunities. And so we could talk about this for a very long time, but we've boiled it down on the slide for you, some sort of tips, tricks, how you do this. And I just want to call out a couple things that I think, can personally speak to from our experience with the team around how we've really been able to foster a culture where we listen authentically, we respond to feedback, and we've made progress in people feeling directly like they're involved in what we do and they're invested in. So outside of kind of your standard individual development, which absolutely needs to be invested in, let me tell you two other key things that we really focus on for our transformation and I think have paid dividends. The first is the investment that we made in our leaders. Of course, your leaders are important in your organization, but how empowered are they? And how much trust do they have with their team? Ideally, the person that an employee trusts the most within their organization is their direct manager, because that person has the biggest impact on their workload, on their day, on the culture of the team. So we really put a lot of focus into growing and developing our leadership team, not just from a technical and operational standpoint, but really from that cultural standpoint to unlock their potential. One thing to try really worked for us is we have a meeting that we call Exchange on Change. It sounds very simple on paper. We meet once a month with our leaders. We talk about hot topics. We ask, what's going well, what's not working. But this has really been fundamental for shaping the culture and unlocking our managers' potential and seeing benefits from that. We focus a lot on creating psychological safety in those calls. We allow people to ask anonymous questions, but we also keep it very open. We bring our executives in to help answer, and we've built trust, not just because of the environment in the call, but because we've listened. When they tell us something isn't working, I promise we take that to heart. We bring it back to our team and we figure out a solution. We come back to our managers and ask, is it working? Is it better? So it can be simple changes that you make that start to create the type of culture you want and really unlock how your organization is working. And those managers, they act as catalysts for you. They're going to push that down. They're going to create trust, authenticity, openness, and really allow people to show up more as they are and unlock that potential because you've unlocked that potential in them. The second big thing that we've really focused on is trying to create this deep culture of innovation. When you have people who are feeling open, feeling supported by their managers, supported by their opportunities, then you really are allowing them to have a creative space to provide innovation ideas to you. And we know that people on the front lines doing the work, they know what's not working for them. They know what's holding them back, and they just need a space where you can turn that innovation into action. So we've created a cool structure in our innovation program that has really helped us transform towards that world-class organization. And I'd love to give you a peek at how we do it. And to do that, I'd like to turn it over to Mohammed to talk really about how he nurtured and helped to build this program within our organization. So over to you.
Yeah, so when I joined, there was a yearly event around innovations. People came together, submitted some ideas, chose a winner, celebrated, and then everybody went back into hibernation till the next event. And I challenged them to create this culture of continuous innovation. And the reason behind it is when you embark on such a massive transformation, you want people to feel invested in that transformation. You want them to feel that they are part of the solution and not part of the problem. Because typically said, oh, we have a problem with the employees, let's make this new transformation. We wanted them to be part of this journey that we've embarked on. So the culture of continuous innovation that we've implemented is an ongoing process that starts with identifying top challenges facing our organization, people submitting ideas on how to address those challenges. We prototype some of those ideas, and then finally, pick a winner and create a proof of concept. And many of the utilities, tools, solutions that we use today came out of that program, came out as an idea from a couple of support engineers. Yes, we have the ideation management platform that pretty much any company has. People submit their ideas. But we've also made a commitment that each and every idea will be reviewed, will be screened, and if it's rejected, we come back to the engineer on why it was rejected or not accepted or put on a back burner till something else comes in place. So we've created this culture where everybody feels that they are part of this transformation, and it's not being dictated down to them from the top.
Absolutely. And that's really the key, right? If you're looking to unlock individual potential, you've got to make sure they feel involved, because you only want to show up with your best when you are getting something out of it, when you see the product of it. And so thanks for sharing that, Mohammed. We're really proud of that. All right, let's move forward to our second big bucket here that we want to talk about, which is building a purpose-driven culture. Creating a culture of trust and empowerment is really fundamental in continuing to unlock potential and have people show up as their best selves. When people feel trusted and empowered, they take ownership of their work, they contribute more, they're more innovative. And we see that in the programs that we just mentioned. And what really takes us to the next level is when you can help your team to build a connection between the direct work that they're doing and their greater purpose in the world. We all want to feel like we're making an impact, right? No matter what task we're doing. And so whether you call it a purpose, a mission statement, a vision, most companies have a statement that drives how they work and how they run. And you can find this just by Googling some, and we're sharing this here today. But why do we have this? And why do we see this so much now? Today's workforce is really focused on, not just showing up to get a paycheck, but really they crave a sense of purpose and meaning. So by infusing that purpose into your organizational DNA, people can become propelled to new heights, and you keep that as part of your culture and you keep it going. That's part of this sustainable change. You've got to have the right underlying culture to keep moving forward and keep people engaged and positive during times of change. At SAP, for example, our purpose is to help the world run better and improve people's lives with sustainability at the core. Honestly, this does influence what we do all the way down to our engineers. However, whether you have a statement like this for your company or not, you can still be in control of your direct team, your peers, your direct reports, the group around you, and you have influence over helping to shape a purpose-driven culture within those peers. So let me give you some more information on kind of how we can do that. Purpose-driven culture, again, it starts with that sense of belonging and trust. And I want to take a moment to ask each of you, if you'll allow me, to reflect on this yourselves. So think about this for a moment. I think we've all been in the situation where we need to describe the work that we do, especially in tech, maybe to someone non-technical in our family, a friend. How do you actually explain your job to someone else outside of your team, outside of your company? How do you let them know why you have this job and what it is? Think about that for a second. I think it's not always easy to make that connection, and it's especially not easy without a sense of purpose. Of course, if you're an ER doctor, very clear, right? The reason I'm doing this is to save people's lives. For us in support, we have to help our team build those connections so that they can show up and feel empowered in their role and feel a sense of purpose and belonging, and really feel driven by the mission that your company has. And we have a lot of different ways that we can do this and things that we can do. Again, there's some tips here, but I'd like to share with you some information and kind of one way that we at least put this at the core. So we've got our purpose, we've got our bigger picture from SAP. We then make sure that we bring this in to Mohammed's leadership meetings, for example, to our all hands meetings, and to what we bring to our teams. So we have a people philosophy. And of course, here, this is just a slide, but the purpose here is to be clear and intentional about how we see our team, how we see the people on our team, and how that helps us connect into the type of organization that we want to have. We have done, over the 5 years that I've been on this team, countless feedback sessions. We have done surveys, both corporate and internal to our team. We've even done, big mural walls where we ask people to tell us information about the question I just asked you. How do you feel about your job? How do you tell people about it? What are the words you use and what gets you excited? And we've used that to shape our philosophy. This is not just something we put on paper. We have a ton of information, development opportunities that people can go to help access more on each of our core components of this philosophy, which you can see here. But we also use this to shape our transformation. When we're doing something, we need to be conscious if it aligns with our cultural values. So are we providing growth? Do we have enough growth opportunities for our people and the changes that we're making? Is it inclusive? Can we bring everyone along with us on this transformation? And are we looking out for the employee well-being? These are checks and balances that we can use when we are deciding, how to transform, and it helps us stay in line with our culture. Also makes it clear and open for our team. And I hope that it helps them to talk a little bit more easily to those friends and family about what they do and what their purpose is, because we want them to feel like they really are making an impact in support, because we know they are. We can see the difference that they're making. So this is a core part of our culture as well. So once you've unlocked the potential in your people, you've built the culture to sustain it, then the next thing comes, which is kind of the icing on the cake, the catalyst that you can really use to now help even propel your organization forward in its transformation. And that is using technology to specifically look at reducing effort and now making the job of your engaged team easier for them, to keep them going and to build up that team even more. So for this, I'm going to turn it back over to the expert, over to Mohammed, to talk a little bit more about what this means and some things that we've tried.
So a few years back, when the industry switched its focus from customer satisfaction to customer effort, and many research have shown that customer effort ties better, or is a better indicator to customer loyalty than customer satisfaction is. We did the switch as well, but we also had to understand what are the levers that make customer effort score go up or down. We knew exactly what are the buttons to push to impact customer satisfaction, but we were learning with customer effort. And one thing became apparent fairly quickly is if you reduce effort on your employees, that translates into reduction of effort on customers. So we embarked on this journey as well to reduce customer effort. And even in my leadership team here at SAP, we focused a lot on customer experience for many, many years. But we made a commitment and a promise to our employees last year that part of our revamped strategy, we're putting employee effort on the same level as customer effort. Whatever we need to invest the same amount of money, and we're doubling down on the reduction of employee effort. How do you reduce employee effort? Well, through the help of technology. You can start small, you can start big. I suggest you start small. Look at simple tasks. It might take a minute to do a certain task, but a support engineer does it 10 times a day. You multiply that by 3, 4, 5,000 engineers. You can imagine the impact that you have just by automating this task. So we started looking at what are some repetitive tasks that we can automate, processes that we could streamline, technologies that helps our employees to work more efficiently, be more productive, and kind of give them this additional bandwidth to do stuff that they typically don't do. So by reducing employee effort, now we created an environment that enables our employees to unlock their full potential. Back to the potential, topic that we talked about a few slides ago. When you reduce the effort on your employees, you free them up, or you free up time for them for more meaningful work and more value-added activities. They can, work on cross-skilling or upskilling themselves. They can work on some development project. They can work on innovation. They can work on the development plans. Every engineer in our organization has a work plan, which is around KPIs and backlog, the usual support stuff, but they also have a development plan on how do they see themselves growing. So by giving them this additional bandwidth, one, you reduce the effort on them. Two, you give them that time to work on more value-added stuff, do more creative problem solving, more innovative thinking, on and on and on. So I'm not going to go through everything on that slide. You can read it afterwards. But invest in technology to reduce the effort on your employees, because it immediately transfers and translates into customer effort. So let me give you just a couple of examples that we've worked on in SAP. So if you go to the next slide, the first one is what we call integrated support environment. A support engineer typically spends the majority of their day working in their CRM system or ticketing system. But if you watch a support engineer, they go to a lot of other places, dashboards for metrics, other places for customer 360s, connections to customer systems. There's a lot of places that they go to do their job. So this integrated support environment is a powerful browser developed specifically for support organizations. It's a browser that brings together all the tools, all the technologies, and all the processes required by a support organization. And the beauty of it, it's a tool that was developed by support engineers for support engineers. So it provides users with an enhanced and tailored browser experience. It reminds users of important tasks. There are alerts, there are nudges, there are reminders. I mean, we have recommenders as they are working on a ticket. There are recommenders that are, recommending solutions. If a customer, attaches a file to the ticket, when they are offline, there are parsers that kick in, analyze the attached files, and provides a list of recommendations to the engineer. And it's an open system, as in any organization that takes it on, or any team that takes it on, they can develop their own extensions. So again, it's a powerful ecosystem that we've brought together, that the engineer don't have to go anywhere else during their day. Everything is at their fingertips. And as I said, this is not just a bunch of hyperlinks. There are recommenders, there are reminders, there are nudges, there are alerts. We have something called like a communication system, similar to Twitter, where you don't want to send an email, you just want to send a one line, like, hey, all hands starting in 30 minutes, get ready. Or if there are some important changes. So it's a powerful system we created to reduce the effort on our employees and to make them more productive and more efficient in their day-to-day jobs. The second one is a customer tool. And you're wondering, why am I talking about a customer tool? I'll get to that in a minute. Support assistant is what we used to call 10 years ago in support industry, guided workflows, decision trees. But this is one that's really powered by machine learning engines. So a customer comes in, starts creating their ticket, and as they give us more and more information, we're providing recommendations to their problem. And, we're recommending, let's say, pieces of content. The customer clicks on that piece of content. No, it didn't solve my problem. And that assistant starts asking more and more focused questions or narrower questions. And, we're capturing the history throughout this experience. And if nothing helps at the end, then we ask the customer to attach certain files based on the ticket. And like I said before, there are parsers that kick in. No humans have touched the ticket so far. There are parsers that kick in, analyze the log files, identify errors, match the errors to pieces of content, recommend them to the customer. So if all that fails, this is where the employee part comes in. If all that fails, we've captured all this information. We've captured the answers the customer has given us. We've captured the pieces of content the customer opened but did not solve the problem. So what we have is what we call a perfectly documented ticket coming to the support engineer. We're very proud of this. At SAP, so I talked about innovation within my organization, but SAP has a company-wide innovation event once a year. And we have what we call the Hasse-Plattner Award. Hasse-Plattner is the founder of SAP. And it falls in three categories. One is about development, one is about go-to-market, and one is about operational excellence. And that tool, specifically in 2022, won the Operational Excellence Hasse-Plattner Award. It is the most coveted award at SAP, and I'm very happy and very proud that we won it last year. So these are just a couple of examples. And both of these ideas started with engineers saying, why don't we do this or that? So let's bring it home. So we've walked you through our three-step approach. Again, there's much more that we've done, but if we had to categorize everything or the majority of things we've done, they fall into these three areas. And hopefully by now we've gotten you thinking on how this could benefit your organization and how you can take them back to your team and try them out. But we all know that it is not as simple as these are the PowerPoint slides, go execute them. So Alice is going to take us through some of the barriers to success that you need to be very much aware of before you embark on this exercise. So back to you, Alice.
Great. Thank you, Mohammed. And thanks for sharing all that on the technology. It really is the catalyst. And like Mohammed said, hopefully we have gotten you thinking about some other areas that you can invest in, other things you can try. I'm a big believer in trying, as many things as you can. It's okay to have things that fail, but see what sticks for your organization. And it may not always stick. It may stick for a year and you may have to change it. That's okay. So what's important in that is in having that flexibility is to know what to do when you hit a roadblock. So as I mentioned, I'm a people person. I also love change. And so I've seen a lot of things go the right way and the wrong way. And I'm sure if you take a moment to reflect as well, and you could put your hand up, I'm sure I'd see some hands if I ask you, how many of you have seen a project fail? I think we've all seen that. And yeah, we all have. It's okay. It's a part of life. It's a part of transforming. And we're not going to always get it right. But it's great to have strategies to help us overcome some of those roadblocks and fail less, succeed more. That's our goal. So when you are thinking about bringing this back to your team, I wanted to give you just some information that you can focus on, that you can think about if you hit these roadblocks. And I encourage you to even investigate some of these areas more. But in terms of having this employee-focused transformation and making some of the changes we talked about, here's 4 common barriers that I think you might encounter and ways you can work to overcome them. So I talked initially when I was talking about unleashing potential about leadership support. It really is foundational. And I'm not just saying that, your managers fall in line, they do what you ask them to do, they make sure you hit your KPIs. You really need to invest in your leaders to become change leaders, to understand the transformation and to be able to communicate it back to their team. You've got to make sure that the people leading your transformation are good, visible leaders who actually invest in your change and believe in it. I had someone ask me once, what if I don't like a change? A manager asked me, should I just lie and say I like it? Or should I just tell them, it sucks, but we have to do it? And I was like, neither of those things, please. Let's work on how we can fix this together. So again, it's not about blindly supporting something, but it's encouraging your leaders. If something isn't working, create that space for them to speak up and create that, safety to do so. Overall, that's going to be a huge, huge factor in driving your transformation forward. And if it's not working, they're the people you want to go to and ask them why, because they're going to know, because their teams have complained to them and they'll help you be a part of the solution. The second thing, Mohammed mentioned this in the beginning, is resistance to change. First, this is human nature. The first thing that everyone thinks of when you find out something that you're used to is going to change, you think, oh my God, what am I losing? This cannot be good for me. That's human nature. So what we have to do is build plans to help us overcome it. And of course, change management plans are part of that. But, in general, what you want to do when you've got an organization that is resistant to change, on top of leadership support, is you want to start with small incremental changes. So we've talked about kind of these big building blocks, but you want to just start with a few things. Again, start with a meeting, like I mentioned to you that we do with our Exchange on Change. Start there, right? Make a small change. Have a feedback session with your team. Like Mohammed said, start with taking a small process that takes a minute and see if you can make it 45 seconds. You'll start to build momentum with those small changes. People will start to see the benefit and they'll start to understand why. Again, if you've got that purpose culture, you can always tie it back to why you are making these changes, and you can use your leaders to help communicate that. The next thing is lack of clear expectations and accountability. So 2 things can happen here. Sometimes we don't have the right people in the right roles to actually be able to do what it is that we are asking people to do. So you first got to make sure that you take a look at that, and a hard look at that. It's not always easy, because when you're looking at roles, you automatically think about the people in them. And again, we're people focused here, so I get it. But you've got to really make sure that the right people are in the right roles. And then you've got clear expectations on what it is you're changing, why you're changing it, and you need to be very clear on what people need to do and how they're going to do it. And in this sense, over communicate. I always feel like if my organization is tired of me talking to them about what's changing, I've done a good job. They know we've saturated it, and that's going to help that resistance to change too. And then of course, the accountability, tying it back to our leaders, but also tying it back to our development plans. You've got to have that accountability baked into your organizational structure, and you've got to have those metrics and those systems in place when you're leading a transformation so that you actually get to the outcome you want to get to. A lot of time in projects, we fail here because we don't have that accountability or that setup of the outcome in the project we're looking for, and we fall flat, or we've got to do a change again. So keep focused on that up front. And the last thing is a siloed organizational structure. We talked about unlocking that potential. We talked about building the culture, using the technology. If you've got siloed organizations and you've got microcultures and you've got managers with very different approaches, and you've got processes that are siloed across your teams where the teams need to be working together, that is always going to stop you. No matter how good of a plan you have, no matter how good of leadership support you have, how clear you are, those silos will get in your way. So that's different for every organization, but look at how you can foster cross department collaboration, how you can break down some of those barriers, and again, use that shared purpose to bring your teams more together. So that's a quick bit of information, but hopefully that sets you up for a bit of success in knowing what you might hit and how to be flexible when it comes up and make a plan. So that is some of the things you might come up against. So we've walked through a lot today. We've shared some of our stories. I want to ask Mohammed to really bring it home for us here and share a little bit. We're talking about the stories of our transformation, and we wanted to share with you as well the outcome and what that's really meant for our organization, what that looks like. And then we're going to leave you with the key takeaways. So if you walk away with nothing else from today, Mohammed's going to give you some information on what we think is the most important to take back to your teams. So over to you, Mohammed. Let's talk about, really what we've learned and what the impact has been for our team.
Right. So far, Alice and I have shared a lot of stories, a lot of tools, a lot of insights from our own organization. And it's been a long transformational journey. But as I said at the beginning, we have the data to show that it's working. SAP runs twice a year company-wide employee survey, and very extensive surveys, and we get somewhere from 78 to 82 up to 85% response rate, which is pretty significant. And the survey results are bucketized in those categories that you see here: diversity, inclusion, culture of innovation, employee engagement, leadership trust, leadership culture, and the business health culture. And there's a lot more around health and well-being, etc. But I thought for the purpose of this exercise, we'll focus on those. Now, unfortunately, I cannot share with you the actual numbers because this is intellectual property and specific to SAP. But I can show you the trends. I'm okay. SAP is okay with showing trends. We've seen, and I'm serious, significant improvements in each and every one of those categories. The one that I'm proudest of as the leader of this organization are the two ones at the bottom: the leadership trust. Do you trust your manager? And what is the leadership culture that we have implemented in this organization? Alice talked about the psychological safety that we provide to our leaders to speak up, to contribute. We have sounding boards at different levels of the organization. And those two have really helped create this culture that we have at SAP. And despite the pandemic, despite economic pressures, cost cutting at SAP, I mean, we all face different challenges at different times in the past few years. Our numbers have consistently improved in each and every one of those areas. So let's bring it home. What are the key takeaways? Unlock your employee potential. Many of my peers, and I talked to many of you in the industry, and I was one of them. We focused on numbers, nothing but numbers, KPIs, 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 KPIs. That's all we cared about. When I joined SAP, I had a few positions to fill, and I was told you need to hire a change management lead. I go, what is that, and why do I need it? I was literally there, like, why do I need a change management lead? Why is that so important? I can run the support organization like I've done in the past. But over the years, after Alice joined, of course, I've learned to see the light, and I've learned to appreciate the power of satisfied employees on the overall health of a support organization. I cannot stress enough how satisfied employees can directly impact customer experience, customer retention, and customer loyalty. Loyalty is so much more important nowadays in the cloud world than it was in the on-prem world, because, as I said, customers can switch vendors very easily. So invest in your employees, Don't see them just as ticket solvers. Tap in their potential and use it to your advantage. Second, build a purpose-driven culture. We didn't get it right from the first time. Our vision, our ambition fell flat. We had to try a few things, but you need to find the right way to get your organization excited, bought into your vision, and actively participating in your transformation. If your company, I doubt there's a company that doesn't have a purpose, but if you happen to be one of those, create a purpose for your own team. During the pandemic, SAP played a very important role in vaccine development, vaccine distribution, tracing of COVID patients, et cetera, et cetera. And we try to link everything that we're doing to a bigger picture. That's how you get people excited. That's how you get people to get out of bed in the morning energized. Now, I'm not saying it's going to work for each and every engineer every single day, but get them excited around a vision, be it a company vision or be it your own organizational vision. And finally, technology. We build a lot of tools. We spend time, efforts, and resources on building customer tools to improve customer experience. Well, carve out a portion of that budget. Build technologies to improve your employee experience, to reduce the time and effort on them so they can work on more value-added activities, which make them happier, which reduces the effort on them. Customer effort, employee effort, they work hand in hand. You improve one, the other one will benefit, and vice versa. So all of this combined is how the power of satisfied employees can unleash happy customers, can unleash loyalty, can unleash retention. So thank you for your time today. I will turn it over to you and answer some of your questions.
Thanks, Mohammed, and thanks from my end too for all of you for listening today. We've got time for our Q&A, and we'd love to hear from you. As I mentioned, we're people focused individuals, and we'd love to engage with our peers here. So ask away. I do see some questions that have already come in, so thank you for that. I'm just going to answer them in the order that I saw them come in. And Mohammed, maybe you can answer this first one for us. So during our transformation, what kind of turnover rates did you experience?
Our attrition rate is pretty steady. We never went into double digits. We did not see a link or a correlation between doing a transformation and our attrition increasing. There was no, we didn't see any impact. Alice?
No, you're right.
Anything from your side? No?
Yeah, because I think that we took that people first approach. I have seen before where someone comes in very hard just on the processes and the tools and the compliance really. And we really more focused on that accountability and the engagement. And I think that is what allowed us to make this transformation, again, over a period of time without any significant talent lost.
Yeah, one thing that we didn't talk enough about is we really tried to create different career paths within our organization. The challenge I posed was, I want people to be able to make an entire career out of support. So of course we have the ticket solvers, the majority of our population, but you can work in operations. I have a small development team that's creating tools and technologies for customers and employees. We have customer facing roles. You can remain technical, but collaborate with development on the release readiness, etc. So we have a variety of career paths all within our own support organization. So you could pretty much change jobs, but without the need to leave and go work somewhere else. I'm not saying we don't have attrition, but we have industry standard, even a little bit below industry standard.
Mm-hmm. Great point. And we talked about right people in the right roles. One of the first things, not the first thing because it took your time, but one of the main things that you did originally was actually remodel the organization and how it was shaped and what that accountability looked like. And then we coupled that with a heavy investment on career path, on development, and on helping our leaders to work with their people to feel that there was a future. So there was a heavy investment there for sure. Great questions. All right, the next one here, Mohammed, I think also great for you to start this off would be, what qualities do you look for in the people you hire in your teams?
I don't see the question, but I can speak about my directs. So when I came in, the leadership team that I inherited is very different from the leadership team that I have today. What I'm looking for in my senior leaders is the ability to see where support is going to be 3 to 5 years from today. So I have this, visionary leaders, transformational leaders, not scared of change, not scared of pushing the envelope. And second, be excellent operational executioners. So for me, a strong leader is somebody who could go from talking strategy 3-4 years from today to be able to switch topics and talk about what is the backlog situation in their in their organization. The ability to be able to regularly switch between strategy and operational is what I look for in a leader. But most importantly, people who are not scared of challenging status quo and pushing the envelope to really drive their organization towards a future that people don't even know what it's going to look like. In the typical ranks of support engineers, of course, we look for pretty strong technical skills, but also the ability, especially as we move into the cloud, be very technical, but also have the ability to talk to business users on non-technical users. Because again, the Oracles and the IBMs and the SAPs of the world, we only dealt with highly technical people on the customer side. Now we're looking for people with great communication skills, strategic thinkers. Help me out here with the meta skills or the power skills, Alice. What
Empathy,
are the things?
diversity and inclusion. Yeah, some of those too.
Yeah. So great technical skills, but we're also looking for a set of power skills that we would like to see in every employee in our organization.
Yeah, great perspective. And I think, like you said as well, we look for people that can think, in both of those ways. And I think it's based on the leadership and the leadership you bring to Mohammed, because you're also someone who's not afraid to be wrong. So we have this culture where you can, speak up and let us know when something's not working. And we definitely look for that in our teams as well.
That's a very good point. What I say is, if you don't trip and fall every once in a while, then you're not dreaming big enough.
Love that.
So
allow for the 1% for sure. There's another question here that kind of skipping around a bit, but it couples with what we're talking about in terms of attracting talent. So we've got a question: based on the culture you have created, does support attract internal hires? And if so, from what other departments?
Well, the short answer, no. We kind of bring people from the outside into support, but we've had people come from development into support. We've had people come from, let's say, customer-facing roles like CSMs, etc., into support. But typical, like any other support organization in industry, the flow goes usually in the other way. People spend a few years in support. They'd like to go into development or other places. It's a phenomena that we have to deal with as a support organization. Need to have very strong pipeline at all points in time. But some of our, again, depending on the roles, some of our very strong hires came from development because they already had the network in development. They had the collaboration, and the development is typically the organization that we work with the most frequent. So yeah, that's kind of my answer here.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think that's something that we all face. And I think that's sort of the nature of support. But I will say we also, of course, we work to keep our top talent in our team, especially with technical skills and things like that. So we invest in career path and development, but we also don't fight against trying to help people find the right career for them, especially within our board area, within our engineering teams. So we actually work collaboratively with our larger organizations to make sure our career path fits in so that people know when they're coming to support. Of course, we've got a great career path here, but you're growing yourself and we care about you as an individual. And there's other places you can take those skills to. So of course we try to retain, but we also don't fight against it. We want to make sure that people feel supported. That's good for our overall company, right? And good for SAP. So we definitely.
And one thing that surprised me coming into SAP support is the number of people that have a lot of seniority just working in support. I mean, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I'm going to say probably 30% of the employees have more than 20 years experience in support.
Absolutely. I'm not
Yeah.
quite there. I'm at 15 years in support, but I'm waiting.
Yeah.
I'm intending to be here for at least 5 more so I can hit that mark.
Yeah.
Great. A few more questions here. Can you talk about a few things you tried that did not work? So this is going to challenge us to think about all the things that didn't work that we had to redo. I'm going to think about it too, but do you have anything off the top of your mind?
Yeah, probably the first year I did a lot of talking and not enough listening. A lot of things kind of felt top down. So I learned that very quickly that, oh, this transformation is not going to work. It's not till, people like Alice, and Alice specifically joined the organization, and we started this working more on engaging the people and creating a highly engaged, highly excited organization that we started seeing some positive results from our transformation. I would say the first year I couldn't achieve much. So that's probably number one. Too much talking, not enough listening, too much top down, and not enough bottoms up, not enough sounding boards. I mean, what else can you think of,
Yeah,
Alice?
for sure. And I think we sometimes ask too much. Like there were times where we were doing too many things. So actually
exactly.
also once we kind of passed that first hurdle and we started to figure out how we can bring our teams in a little better into our transformation, we're really excited. Like we started to gain some momentum, we're transforming, we've got lots of ideas coming in. So then we wanted to do everything. So then I remember, Mohammed, there was also a period of time where we were doing a lot, and some of that was necessary. Sometimes you do have to push, but we kind of hit a point where people were like telling us it's too much, and we were seeing our adoption shift. To your credit, I remember talking to you and saying, listen, we've got to pause it. Like we have to stop. And, I remember you standing up and telling the team, listen, I promise there's no more changes coming to you in Q4. Like take a breath, we're going to catch up. And that was a really big learning curve for us too. And we failed on a couple of projects there that we had to redo because we didn't get the adoption. People were too overwhelmed. So even when it's going well, you can kind of get in your own way, and you've got to edit and scale back a little bit. So that was a lesson learned for me too. Okay, great. Next question here. There are lots of new AI products and startups and lots of products to support. If you had to build a support organization for a startup, how would you approach it different from an enterprise? This is a fun one.
Wow, that's a good question.
Okay.
It requires a little bit of thinking. There's so much technology is coming at a faster pace than we can consume it. I would build a data lake or a knowledge base that's really very structured. So to enable those technologies, let's pick ChatGPT. I'm sure there were quite a few sessions on large language models. You cannot just turn it on and imagine, expect it to work. You need the whole foundational element. Call it data lake, call it whatever. So you need to be systematic in how you approach this foundational element. How do I create a data lake that is acceptable, or that can enable all these new technologies that will come. So let's not forget one thing. Support, no matter how many technologies come in, no matter how powerful ChatGPT will become, support will always be a human-driven business. We're successful in support not because of the technologies we've implemented to avoid problems, but because of the technologies that made our employees, humans, more efficient and more powerful in working with customers. Customers, at the end of the day, want to speak with a human. I know it from my personal experience. I use support organization in my personal life, Apple, Microsoft, Adobe, etc. And there's nothing more I hate than just talking to machines. So if I had to build a support organization, I will build it in a way that's very conducive to all these new technologies that are coming in. Yes, I will use chatbots. Yes, I will use large language models. Yes, I will use deflection engines or search engines. But see how much it's going to get, or how far it's going to get me, and then bring the human elements. Say, all right, now that I've figured out how much technology can solve, let's see, bring the human element and see how I can staff my support organization. But if the question is whether I can run a support organization exclusively with technology, my answer would be no. But then again, look at my gray hair. I'm much older than many people here, so they might have a different approach to how support organizations should be run.
That's great. I was going to say perfect thing to end on, and then but we ended on the gray hair. No, but I think you're right, and I think you touch on it in there too. Really, that balance that we were trying to express to everyone today. That it's important to get these people elements kind of as a foundation. Then you bring in the technology, and then you've got to get those things to work in harmony. And that's what we hope that we brought to you today is some, tips and ideas, and challenge you maybe a little bit in your thinking of where you prioritize. And hopefully, you walk away inspired to try something different on your team and see what you can do. So I think that, we've got one last question here. We've got just a few minutes, so I want to make space for it, and then we'll make sure we give some time at the end. So our last question here, how did you manage the priority demand from the company to prevent distraction for your team? So I think, how did we sort of, do all of this within the confines, I think, of our corporate structure is sort of how I'm reading it, to prevent distraction.
I need your help on that. As Alice said a few minutes ago, yes, we had competing demands. We had our backlogs, we had our incoming volumes to deal with, and we had to roll out a new program that required X hours of training. And, we stumbled at the beginning. There are some projects that failed because we didn't prioritize accordingly, or we're trying to do too much too fast in a very little amount of time. So, but also my leaders know that sometimes you have to take a hit on your operations to be able to roll out something much bigger. Mm-hmm. So we had to make that compromise multiple times. Not to the point where we let everything go for a month because we're rolling out a project. No, if we need to take people off their queues for, one day each to train them on a new program, so be it. We get a slight dip in our operations, but we recover very quickly. So it's a delicate balance you have to maintain at all times. But don't say, I can't do it because our workload is increasing. Workload will always increase. Backlogs will always be there. You just have to sacrifice it to a point where you don't have to destroy your operations completely. But you also need to give prioritization or priority to your people, to your transformation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. And to complement that from my perspective, communications is a huge part of that in terms of preventing distraction. So we know that engineers, they prefer to be doing the work, right? They want to be heads down. They want to be helping customers. And that's also what we want them to be doing. So when we've got all of these other things we're asking them, we have to edit. So I'm lucky that we have a fantastic communications team. But one of the things that we really focus on in my team is editing and reducing noise. My communication lead will say no when people want to push something out to our team, even if it's our organization above us, because it might not be in the best interest of our engineers. So communication and taking control of how much you push to your team, editing it, is a huge, huge part of it. So I think, thank you so much for the engaging questions. It's really great to talk through this and to be with all of you today. We want to wrap up and give you some time because I think we've got an award ceremony coming up. So from my side, thank you again. Great to engage with all of you. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat with you about all people topics. And Mohammed, back over to you to close us out.
Same here. Thank you very much for all the questions, engaging questions. I can tell there's a lot of interest. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I have tons of stories to tell, having spent 30 years in the support industry, and I would love it if you reach out to me just to chat or pick my brain on any of the topics that we shared with you today or any other topic. And with that, we bring this session to closure, and then we move to the really exciting session of award ceremony. See you there, everyone. Bye-bye.